Hello students, welcome back. Today we are going to learn a new topic which is not only important but also very interesting. The name of the topic is active and passive voice. Let us understand why we need to learn this topic. This topic is very important as in our spoken and written language we use it very often. Using the voice in our sentences gives a different charm altogether to our sentences. Hence, it is mandatory for you to be thorough in tenses, subject-verb agreement, transitive and intransitive verb, but most importantly, the verb. Let us study active and passive voice. A sentence can be divided into subject, verb, and object. Example, Madhu writes a letter. Here, Madhu is the subject, writes is the verb, a letter is the object. Now let us see what has happened. A letter was written by Madhu. So a letter has become the subject, was written is the verb. Look at the change that has happened in the verb and then followed by Madhu, which is the noun. So in the first sentence, Madhu is the subject, whereas in the second sentence, the letter has become the subject. Even if we change the word order, we observe that the sentence still has three parts: subject, verb, and object. This is very, very important. Let us understand what this voice is. Well, what is this voice? Voice is the form of the verb which indicates whether a person or thing does something or something is done to a person or thing. In order to understand this concept, let us move ahead so that it is clear to you. Let us see the kinds of voices. Active voice. What is this active voice? When a verb form shows that the subject has done something, it is said to be in active voice. Example, I wrote a poem. I is the subject, wrote is the verb, a poem is the object. So here what is important? I, that is the subject. So who is active in this sentence? I, which is a subject, and hence it is in active voice. Let us see passive voice. When a verb form shows that something has been done to the subject, it is known to be in passive voice. Example, a poem was written by me. A poem is the subject, was written is the verb, me is the object. So what do we observe in this sentence? The action has been given more importance than the subject. Let us summarize the definition of active voice and passive voice. So let us see. In active voice, the subject acts, whereas in the passive voice, it receives the action. In other words, in active voice, the subject is active, and in the passive voice, it becomes passive. So in active voice, we find the subject to be taking the action, whereas in passive voice, we find that the action plays more important than the doer of the action. Let us see the points that you need to keep it in mind. Okay, the points to remember are: first one, the object in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice. Second one, the subject in the active voice becomes the object in the passive voice. Third one, the passive voice of the verb is made by adding its past participle to some form of the verb be. So be is a primary auxiliary. When I was teaching you earlier also, I mentioned you the importance of verb. And what are these be form of the verb? Is, am, are, was, were, been, and being. What is this past participle? That is the V3 form of the verb, which I mentioned in tenses. So you need to be very thorough in your tenses. Let us see the fourth point. Since transitive verbs have an object, only transitive verbs have passive voice. So again, you need to be thorough with your transitive and intransitive. That is again back to square one. That is, we need to be thorough in our verbs. Let us see the uses of passive voice. That is, where do we use passive voice? And then you will realize the importance of this particular chapter. When it is not necessary to mention the doer of the action, as it is obvious. Obvious means clearly understood. Example, she has been invited to the party. The streets are swept every day. Now, what do we observe in both the sentences? That someone has invited her to the party. So, what is more important? The action. What is the action? That she has been invited. Second one, the streets are swept every day. That is, there is someone who is cleaning the streets. We are not concerned about who is doing that, but what are we concerned about? The action. And what is that action? That the streets are swept. That is, they are very, very clean. Second point, when we do not know the doer of the action. There are many times we do not know who has done the action. Example, the window was broken. Now here also we do not know who has broken the window because we did not see anyone breaking the window. So we do not know the person who has committed this particular action. Mohan has been murdered. So we do not know the person who killed, who murdered Mohan. So what do we see in the second part? That is, we are unaware of the person who has done the action. Okay. So if, for example, in the school also, if teacher asks you who has done it, no one answers, but there is some action which has taken place. Fine. So this first and second point is very, very important. When we do not give importance to the doer, but we pay attention to the action done. Third point, when we are more interested in the action than the person. For example, the house has been sold. Who has sold a house? We have nothing to do. What is important? The action, that is, the house has been sold. The thief has been arrested. Who has arrested the thief is not important, but what is the action? That the thief has been arrested. Fourth point, when the subject of the active verb is people, that is, when we are talking about people in general. Example, wolves have been seen in the street. That means some person or people must have seen the wolves in the street. He is considered a corrupt leader. That is, there are some people who consider that particular person to be a corrupt leader. So here also what we have done, we do not know who exactly, but we are assuming it is a group of people or some people. The final point, to describe a process. Now this is very, very important. You have seen so many cooking shows where the person who is showing you the recipe will be speaking in this particular way. That is, milk is boiled and cooled, it is poured into glass and sugar is added. So these are the uses of passive voice. Now we are going to see the different kinds of sentences. We have learned sentences already. We have learned 5 different kinds of sentences, but here we are going to see 3 kinds of sentence. First one is assertive or declarative sentences. That is, how should we change the sentences which are in assertive or declarative sentences in active voice into passive voice. Let us see. There are 2 examples. Mother made a cake yesterday. Mother is the subject, made is the verb, a cake is the object. Made what? A cake. See the change. Now mother is the subject. Yes. Now what has happened? As per the rule, the subject in the active voice becomes the object in the passive voice, and the object in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice. So see, let us see whether it has happened. A cake was made by my mother yesterday. Now what did we do? The verb is in simple past. We have not changed the tense of the sentence. This is very, very important. In passive voice, we do not change the tense of the sentence. We just change the form of the sentence, which we are going to see in the forthcoming slides, where we will see the interchange of tenses. Okay. The second example, I did not beat her. Now this is a negative sentence. It is assertive, but it is a negative sentence. I did not beat her. I is the subject. Did and beat, these 2 are verbs. Not is negative. Her is the object. So what is the passive voice? She was not beaten by me. Now again, did is in the past tense. So did has changed into was, which is the be form of the verb in the past tense. Beat is the V2, beat is the V1, that is simple present. What we have done, we have made it into V3 form, that is the past participle form. These are the things which you are supposed to be very, very clear about. Let us see the second kind of sentences, that is interrogative sentences. Here I have taken the words beginning with auxiliary verbs, that is a question that is beginning with auxiliary verbs. Let us see the first one. Does he see a bird? Okay, does is the auxiliary verb, see is the main verb, he is the subject, and bird is the object. So how do we change it into passive voice? Is a bird seen by him? Now does is in simple present, so we have taken is, which is the be form of the verb, as simple present. See is in simple present, we have changed it into past participle, that is seen, and him is him was the subject in active voice, now it has become the object. Now let us see the next one. Will they help you? They is the subject, you is the object, will is the modal, help, that is it is a auxiliary, help is the main verb. Let us see in passive voice. Will I be helped by them? So you can be a plural, you can be singular, so I have assumed it as singular, so will I be helped by them. So what we have done, in place of you, I have taken I. Be helped, that is help, has changed into helped V3 form. Now here we, as this is a future tense, we have taken the be, the base form of the verb, by them. Next one is imperative sentences. In sentences, I've explained the function of imperative sentences. So imperative sentences talk about commands, threats, advices, suggestions, proposals, so many things are there. And in this, what do we observe? In this we observe that the subject is not mentioned, but it is implied. That is, it is clearly understood that there is a subject. Let us see the example. Read this story. Who should read this story? Obviously you, that is you is not mentioned there. Read is the verb, this story is the object. Now here, as this is imperative sentences, see the way it is changing to passive voice. Let this story be read, or this story should be read. So we use let or we use should when we change it into passive voice. Please make a note. In case of intransitive verbs, the imperative sentences are changed into passive voice like this. That is, we are talking about intransitive verb. Now what did we see in the rules? That only transitive verbs can be changed into passive voice. Okay, but in imperative sentences there are exceptions. Okay, let us see. Please sit down. That is, you sit down, right? So you are requested to sit down. Okay, so what did we do? We change it into passive voice. Okay, there are certain sentences which have two objects. So we are going to see how transitive verbs having two objects can be changed into passive voice. Let us see an example. I gave him a toy. Okay, I gave him a toy. Gave whom? Him. A toy is another object. Him and a toy. And if you remember, when I was teaching you transitive, we had come across this ditransitive, that is where there are two objects. So let us see. I gave him a toy. Now him is the indirect object, a toy is the direct object. Okay, now there are two ways we can change this sentence into passive voice. First one, a toy was given to him by me, or he was given a toy by me. So you can interchange the sentence in this manner if there are two objects. Okay. Now we are coming to the most important thing. That is how we change active voice into passive voice in each tense. Again, I am reminding you children that when we change active voice to passive voice, we do not change the tense of the verb, we just change the form of the verb. Okay, so we are going to look into each and every tense here individually. Okay, and I'll tell you what are these forms. Let us come to the first tense, that is simple present. Let us see the form of simple present. Last time when I was teaching you tenses, I had told you the way in mathematics you have certain formulas. Same way in grammar we have certain formulas so that it's easy for us to remember. Okay, so let us see active voice. Subject plus verb in present. This is the form in active voice. That is, he kicks a ball. He is the subject, kicks is the verb, a ball is the object. Now what happens in passive voice? See the form of passive voice. Subject plus is MR plus V3 form of the verb. That is MR are the B form of the verbs. That is, when we learnt the previous slide, I told you the uses and the important points. So here a ball is kicked by him. Here kicks is in simple present. We have not changed the tense of the sentence. What we have done, in order to show that it is in simple present, we have used the be form of the verb in present, that is. We have changed the verb kick, that is the main verb kick, into past participle, that is kicked. So what have we done? We did not change the tense. We just changed the form. So what we have done? Be plus past participle. We have already mentioned about this in the earlier slides. The next tense, present continuous. Active voice, the form of in active voice, subject plus is MR plus ing form of the verb. Example, he is kicking a ball. He is the subject, is kicking is the verb, ing form in the sense, to the main verb we have added ing. A ball is the object. What happens passive voice? Subject plus is MR plus being, BEING, being plus V3 form. So the passive voice of the sentence is a ball is being kicked by him. So what did we do? Again, we did not change the tense of the sentence. We just changed the form of the sentence. Let us come to the next tense, that is present perfect. Let us see its form in active voice. Subject plus has or have plus V3 form of the verb. Example, he has kicked a ball. Passive voice, subject plus has or have plus been, BEEN plus V3 form. A ball has been kicked by him. Okay, again same thing, has kicked is in present perfect. And in passive voice also we have not changed its tense. We have just changed the form by using the be form of the verb, which is been, has been kicked. Let us move ahead with the next tense, that is simple past. Let us see the form of this particular tense in active voice. Subject plus verb in the past. He kicked a ball. He is the subject, kicked is the past tense of kick, a ball is the object. Passive voice, subject plus was or were plus V3 form of the verb. A ball was kicked by him. A ball, which was the object in the active voice, has become the subject in passive voice. Was kicked, we have taken was, which is a be form of past tense. Kicked, we have kept it as it is because past tense of kicked is kicked only, by him. Let us see the change in past continuous now. The form of past continuous active voice, subject plus was or were plus ing form of the verb. Example, she was kicking a ball. She is the subject, was kicking is in past continuous, a ball is the object. Passive voice, subject plus was or were plus being, BEING plus V3 form. A ball was being kicked by her. Past perfect tense now. Active voice, subject plus had plus V3 form. She had kicked a ball. Passive voice form, subject plus had plus been plus V3 form. A ball had been kicked by her. The next tense is simple future. Let us see the form of simple future in active voice. Subject plus will or shall plus verb in present. She will kick a ball. Passive voice, the form of passive voice in simple future, subject plus will or shall plus be, the base form of the verb be plus V3 form. A ball will be kicked by her. We come to the last tense, that is future perfect. What is the form of future perfect in active voice? Subject plus will or shall plus have plus V3 form. She will have kicked a ball. In passive voice, what is the change? Subject plus will or shall plus have plus been plus V3 form. A ball will have been kicked by her. So dear students, in order to remember this, if you remember the forms, and basically if you are really very good in verbs, you will not face any problems whatsoever. Even if you have seen there are verbs written in slash form, has, have, is, am, are, these indicate that you should be also thorough with subject verb agreement. Please make a note. Out of 12 tenses, only 8 can be changed into passive voice. So future continuous, present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, and future perfect, I already mentioned, these remaining will not have passive voice. Right? Again I repeat, future continuous, future perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, and present perfect continuous. These 4 tenses cannot be changed into passive voice. I hope this particular chapter is clear for you. I am going to send the links as well of tenses, of subject verb agreement and sentences, so that you can go through all the 3 links to check whatever I am talking about. Please do like, share and comment. Thank you. See you in the next video.